Welcome to Ask the Guru, the podcast where we answer those big questions like who are you and why are you here? What is it all for? Thank you so much for joining me today on this quest for the answers. Welcome back to Ask the Guru. This is Debbie Dixon, and again, I am here just hoping to shed a little bit more light. It's so easy in life to get stuck in the dark, to just sort of find ourselves in a downward spiral. And once we start slipping, it's just so easy to go all the way down. And once we get so deep in it, it's dark down there and it's really difficult to find our way out. So I'm hoping that this podcast will be your thing that you'll turn to when you feel a little bit stuck and it somehow elevates you, just gets you a tiny bit lighter. That's all that matters, because once we can just start climbing back out of that hole just a little bit, right, we start to see the light, and from that point you can find your way, and my hope is that everybody is living a joy-filled life in light and love and happiness and all the good things. But I do recognize that part of life is we never stop moving. We never stop growing, which means we are always being faced with challenges. It's like the very moment you get comfortable where you are, right, that desire emerges for growth, that little shove forward for change, so that you don't get too comfortable, right? We want to stay sort of surfing the edge of the comfort zone, always growing, always learning. And the way really, truly to succeed at life is to learn how to navigate shifts and changes and things that might feel a little bit like a block or a hardship or a struggle, and instead just view them as just part of the path. Just view them as what you're going through right now, and like this too shall pass, and recognize that they are there in service to you. So it's just changing your perception of the struggle or the hardship. But that's not even really what we're going to talk about today. That was just a tangent, gone off on that side note. Today, the question that I decided I felt was pertinent to answer is the question of, why do we meditate? What is the benefit to meditation? And I recognize that for a lot of people, I often hear the answer that, I just can't meditate because my mind just doesn't, stop. And it's just not possible for me. And I recognize that. That is probably a very normal symptom of the society that we live in. We are constantly being bombarded with information. Our brains are being overloaded. So, of course it makes no sense when, your mind is running at 100 miles an hour that suddenly you're just going to slam on the brakes and it's going to stop. It can't. It's the same as anything else. Once the momentum of thought is built up, you have to sort of slow it down. You've got to take the mind from a run to a walk to maybe standing still to then seated to a calm space. And you've got to learn that process. And to do that, to anything that we have to take an action and do, there needs to be some motivation, some reason for it. Why do it? So I'm going to hopefully convince you, that will be my goal, to share with you the absolutely amazing benefit to meditation. So what I've come to the conclusion of is the best way to describe to people the benefit of meditation is to bring the mind into, compare it to the body. So if we look at the body, when the body gets sick, let's say that, we've taken on too much bad food. It might be toxic. The body can't process it. And so we get sick. Maybe we eat too much food and the body can't process it, so we put on weight. Regardless, I mean, whenever we're taking in too much or the wrong things into our body, we feel the repercussion of that. The body will get sick in some way. It'll force us to slow down. It might even halt you completely. You might have to, lay down to recover. Or the heavier that you get, if you put on weight from eating or from the wrong foods or whatever it is, if you put on weight, you feel heavy, and this slows you down. And suddenly we're less able to sort of show up to life and move through the obstacles of life because we feel weighed down. So we recognize that. I mean, we're all in agreement. There is nobody that's like, Debbie, that's not true. No, it's absolutely true. If you eat the wrong things, you eat something toxic, you are going to have a toxic result. You're going to get sick. And the body will feel sick and it will stop you from your regular functioning. And usually the response to the body being sick or heavy or processing too much is to stop food intake. So we will oftentimes be told to only take in really bland foods. I can't remember the name of the diet that they put you on, but the diet that's like just bananas and toast or something like that. This is a very bland diet. And this, or nothing at all. Right, just water. This is going to be your best bet because while the body's trying to process and move through this stuff, get rid of it, clear the toxic stuff, we can't keep adding more. It'll overwork the system, clog it up, make it not work. So this is the same thing that is true for the mind. Here we are, overstimulating our minds, constantly taking in all sorts of information, and the mind is overloaded. And by the way, a lot of the information we take in, extremely toxic. We know this. We know that our thoughts impact our emotions, that our thoughts can create the same impact as heavy food. Heavy thoughts can weigh us down. Light thoughts can make us light. We recognize that there is a correlation to the types of thoughts we have and the feeling tone of the body, the emotional turbulence within the body. The two things are tied together. We also recognize that our thoughts are impacted by whatever it is that we feed our mind. So if we're feeding our minds lots of negative stories or scary movies or scary books or stories of murders or crime, all of these things, this is going to be a burden that the mind is now carrying, heavy thoughts that the mind has to process. It'll have an impact on the way that you are perceiving the world and the thoughts that now flow through the mind that create an emotional reaction within the body. So if we notice that what we're feeding our mind is having a negative impact on our body, then why do we keep feeding the mind that? Why don't we do the same thing as we do to the body? Once the mind becomes sick, and we'll notice a sickness in the mind because we'll have disturbing thoughts. We'll start to feel really yucky. Maybe we're scared. Maybe we're experiencing constant thoughts of worry, fear, anxiety, lack, depression, heaviness. Those are all results of a mind that has been taken in some poison, right? Some negative belief systems, negative thoughts, negative information. And if you look at what you're feeding your mind and you look at what you're feeling, you're going to see how they're connected. So it's the same exact prescription. If you were to stop feeding the mind for a little while, sit somewhere where there is no stimulation, there is no external input. You are able to just close your eyes, sit removing all external input for a little bit, and give the mind time to process what it's been given. So you can get to a place of a baseline. People have found extreme healings, massive healings from going through a process. There's all these different schools of thought. There's Vipassana, which is a meditation that you do. It's 10 days where you go and you completely remove all external stimuli. Just about, right? Very basic, very minimal. Again, like the bland diet. So you're not getting input, and you get to process everything you've been through, all of the things. So you kind of do this sifting through and working through until the body and the mind come back to a baseline, back to a starting point. And from that point, you have a much easier time digesting whatever you place into the mind after that, right? It's like now you have an empty slate. So if you start to watch something negative or take in information that makes you feel yucky, you'll notice it right away. And hopefully you'll maybe turn off that TV program or stop reading that book or listening to whatever it is that's making you feel that way. And you'll give yourself time to process what you've already taken in. And then you'll start to notice, well, maybe I should focus on, just like I notice if I eat good foods, high vibration foods, light foods, fruits, vegetables, I feel better. I notice that. When I eat sugars and starches, I feel heavy and yucky. But if I eat light foods, good foods, nutrient-rich foods, I feel fantastic. The same thing is true of your mind. If you feed your mind nutrient-rich ingredients, if you are feeding it powerful, uplifting information, like this podcast, you will then find that you're going to feel significantly better. Your thought processes are going to be different. Your mind has a huge impact on the way you perceive your world. It creates the filters that you're looking at the world through. And it does this through your belief systems and through the programs, through the information that you feed to the mind. So I'm going to urge you today to take time and pause. Remove all external stimuli and just all input. Even if you could just bring it down to a bland diet. So for today, maybe no screens, no TV, no phone, and you just sit for a while with nothing. And breathe. Even if you could only do that for 5 minutes, 5 minutes is better than nothing. But what if you could do it for 20 minutes or 30 minutes? If you could do it a few times a day, at least while you're starting, so you can get yourself to that baseline. And it gives your mind that time to process, and you'll get to a place where you'll have a healthy mind again. You'll notice that a healthy mind is vibrant, it's alert, it's clear, it's happy, it's loving, it's all the things that you want to be. It is worth it. So I'm going to urge you to sit down and meditate. Sometimes we are so overwhelmed that we can't just stop altogether. I recognize that. So maybe that run, right? Taking the mind from the full momentum run down to a walk means utilizing a meditation that is a guided meditation. So it just brings the mind into a focused point that is not involving external stimuli, but instead going inward. So it might be a guided meditation that teaches you to relax your body, walking you through each part of your body. But I'd urge you to find something that allows you to close your eyes, withdraw your senses from the external world for just a little bit, and sit in stillness. Let this be your prescription, your medicine for today. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. And once again, I truly hope that you feel lighter, because the world needs you. You are such an integral part of this world. You have so many people that love you, adore you, and are counting on you and rooting for you and want you to be successful and happy. And I am one of those people, your biggest cheerleader. So I am encouraging you, please, today, sit down and be with yourself. I have a meditation I've uploaded onto this podcast. You could utilize that meditation, it might help. And I have some other ones on my YouTube channel. And I'm happy to advise you if you go to my website and, reach out to me. Again, Debbie Dixon, I look forward to assisting you in your journey towards wellness of the mind and body. Make it a great day.